Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Link and Learn. Today, we are going to start our new weekly sessions on Java programming. So, this tutorial is all about how to program in Java. So, basically, we will go through all the concepts and we'll primarily focus on how to write the Java program to make the computer work for you. So, before we start anything, we need a basic setup, right? So if you want to write the Java program and execute in your PC or let's say a laptop or a portable computer, or it may be in your mobile device also. So you need some kind of setup in order to do that, right? If you are using a mobile device, you have thousands of online compiler and you can make use of it. Or else, if you are using a PC or a laptop, you can use a software called as NetBeans. So you can directly go to the website and it's completely free. You can download and use it. Or else you have another software called as BlueJ. You can also use BlueJ. So basically these are IDEs which help you to write Java program. And for ease of use, you can also use something called as onlinegdb.com. It's an online website where you can try out the different Java program. And once you open the website, you need to select the type of programming language. In our case, we need to select Java. So once you select Java, the whole platform is ready for you so that you can start writing the Java program. So before we start anything, let me give you a few details regarding Java program. So before we start anything, let me ask you what exactly is a computer program? A computer program is nothing but some instruction that is given by the programmer or the user so that the computer will accept this instruction and start executing each instruction one by one. So when I say about instruction, as common people, we will be writing instruction in common language, right? We use English and we write different types of program so that we can instruct our computer. So once you give some instructions to the computer has to understand what is the instruction given by the user, right? So in order to do that, there should be the computer itself cannot do this without any help. So in between, it has some kind of tool which helps in converting whatever instruction that is written in English language by the programmer into something a computer can understand. In a sense, whatever instruction that we write in English will be converted into machine language, and this is done in two different ways. So in order to do this translation from the high level language to the machine language, we use either compiler or interpreter. So compiler and interpreter both converts the high level language to low level language. But there is a small difference in compiler and interpreter. When we talk about writing a Java program or writing any program, certain programming language takes the program as a whole and convert completely into machine code at once and then start executing the program. So compiler works exactly like the same. It will accept the program written by the user and it will convert the whole program into machine language at once. And the advantage is the whole program has been already converted, right? So the computer can start executing each instruction without any issue or trouble. And there is another thing with compilation or with compilers. If there is a particular error, if there is a particular error in the Java program, the compiler will not compile successfully, or the conversion or the conversion from high level language to low level language will not happen successfully. So in order to do that, the program should be error free, and the compiler will be able to translate or convert the high level language to low level language only if that particular program contains no error. But when it comes to interpreter, it's a different story. Let's say your program has 5 different instructions. Interpreter takes each instructions one by one. It will take the it's like it will take the first instruction, convert it into machine code, and it will execute. Then it will take the second instruction, it will convert it into machine code, and execute the second instruction. So it is more like even if there is an error, the program, the interpreter will not be able to identify that error unless it reaches that particular statement. So now the real question comes: is Java a compiled program or a interpreter programming language? So it's a bit tricky. We all know that Java program is a versatile and highly flexible programming language, has a very good structure, and it is the best among those programming language which gives preference to security and all. So there is a reason why how Java program achieves all these things. So when it comes to security and all, we have something called as accessibilities. So we will use certain things in Java program to restrict the access to certain code, just like the phone number. You don't want any unknown people to access your phone number and all, right? So you will keep things private and public. So just like that, we have some methods in Java program to ensure security of data. And another important aspect of Java programming is that it is platform independent. Platform independent in the sense it can be executed in any platform, irrespective of whether it is a Windows system or a Macintosh one or any other operating system. You can execute a Java program in any OS. And the main feature which helps you to achieve this goal is the uh, something called as bytecode. So whenever you try to execute a Java program, first you need to compile the Java program. So when you compile the Java program, the whole program will be converted into a bytecode. And this bytecode will be interpreted by the Java virtual machine, JVM. So Java virtual machine interpret the bytecode and start executing the Java program. So in essence, Java program uses compilation and interpretation. So when you write a Java program, when you compile it, first it will be converted into a bytecode, then it will be interpreted by the Java virtual machine. So these are all the basic things you need to understand when it comes to programming in Java. So let's quickly go through the structure, programming structure in Java programming. Okay, so I'm using online GDB compiler. It's an online compiler. So when you open online GDB compiler, you need to select the programming language. And once you select the language, it will do some basic things for you. So this is a simple program which help you to print the message hello world. So this is basically the first program that comes in almost all the programming language, right? How to print something. So if you run the program, you will see that the message will be printed. So let me go through the programming, the Java program structure. So usually, sometimes if you are writing a complex Java program, you might have to use some additional functionalities in your Java program. So if you are planning to add some additional functionalities in your Java program, you might have to bring that features into your program. So if you are bringing some additional features into your program, you use something called as the import statement. So you have the import statement which imports additional functionalities to your Java program. So we will see what are all these components are. So the first thing in Java program, or the first section of Java program, is the import section. If you are using any kind of additional features in your Java program, you might have to tell the Java program that you are going to use these functionalities in your Java code, and you need to specify what facility or the functionality you are trying to bring into your code. You'll be wondering why I have written all these things. So let me tell you one thing. Java is actually an object-oriented programming, so you don't have to worry about the whole uh, terminology. So it's basically when you write a large or complex Java program, it will be very difficult for you to manage it, right? So if it is a one single program, it will be very difficult for you as a programmer to manage these things. So instead of keeping it as a one whole program, you will divide it into smaller modules or the smaller portion, so that you can easily manage the program, and you can easily find errors in the program. You can reuse the code. So these many facilities are there with Java program. So you will be writing the Java program into small blocks or modules. So in Java program, you can create small blocks called as classes, which has a lot of facilities to store different data, and also you can define your own functionalities, so that whenever you want to use, let's say you don't know how to do the addition, you can define how to add in a particular block, and that can be used at any point by calling that functionality. So you just keep these things in mind. You don't have to worry about how to implement all these things. We'll come to that later. So so we are going into the code section. So if you have any doubt at any point, you can just send me some comments on the comment section, so that I can give you a reply for your doubts. So if you are facing any kind of doubts, you can directly uh, send me a message in the chat, so that I will be giving a reply to you. Okay, so we'll start again. In Java program, we have something called as keywords. Keywords are nothing but reserved words in Java program. Reserved words means it has special meaning in Java program, and you cannot simply use it for any other purpose. So if you look carefully, you can see that some of the words are having different colors. So public, class, static, void, these are actually different keywords, and keywords has special meaning in Java program. So let me tell you what you mean by the public keyword. So I have already told you that Java program has its um, focus primarily on security. So by declaring something as public in Java program, it means it is accessible to everybody. It is accessible to everybody. And class is nothing but uh, it, I have already told you that in Java program you can write programs into modules, right? So class is a keyword which helps you to create one small block where you can implement, where you can use different variables to store different data, or you can define your own functionalities as well. So public class means you are going to create a code block which is accessible to everybody. And you can specify the name of that block. It can be anything. So here it is written as main. And when you define a code block or a class, the first letter by convention should be capital letter. So every class name should start with a capital letter. That is the convention that we have. So you create a class named main, and it is accessible to everyone. And if you below that, you have something called as braces, opening and closing braces. You can see the opening brace here and the closing brace here. And the meaning is your class starts in this section and ends with a close brace. So the meaning is very clear. You have a block which start here and ends here. And within the main class, you have something called as main function. Main function is nothing but the starting point of every Java program. So whenever you execute a Java program, the program should know from where it should start its execution, right? So in order to whatever program that you write in a Java program, the execution begins in the main function. And since it is a function, you can see that you have a small m here. Some of you might be having a confusion. You have written main here and here as well. Why it is not showing any conflict error? The reason is Java is case sensitive. Case sensitive in this sense, capital letter A and small letter a is considered as two different entities. So in this case, you have a class name with m caps, and you have a main function with m small letter. So the Java program treats these two words as two different components. So you have the main function, and it is public, it is accessible to everyone. Then only it will be able to execute whenever you call a program. And you see one keyword, this might be new to you, static keyword. Static means this main function should be shared in the whole program, and there should not be a duplicate. And the reason is, whenever you write a Java program and try to execute it, if you have multiple starting points, it will create a confusion for the Java program to execute your code, right? So that is logically wrong. So in order to make sure that your program execute properly, your program should have only one starting point, which is the main function. And void is actually called as the return type. For example, let's say I don't know how to add two numbers. I will ask my friend to do the addition for me. And if I want to add two numbers, let's 2 and 3, I will give the numbers to my friend. He will add the two numbers and give the result in return, right? So whatever value that he returns, I can use it for the processing. Just like that, in a Java program, sometimes when you write a function or when you define a new functionalities, after doing the process, it will give you back some values. So void means it is this functionality that you have defined does not give you back anything. And you have something called as string args, and right now we are not going into that. And I will give you a small introduction. It is called as command line arguments. So where you can give the commands to execute a Java program, and along with that you can give the inputs to the program as well, and it's a bit high level. So right now we are keeping it aside, so we will come to that at a later point. And the main function starts here and ends here. So this is the block of the main function, and whatever instruction that you are going to execute in a Java program should be written within the block of the main function. And inside the main function, I have written one statement, and this is the statement to print something in the console. So the console, you can see here. So this is the console. So when you run a Java program, the output will be shown in this console. Uh, this is the print function, and let me explain what exactly the print function is. System.out.println. So using the system class, system is also a class which is already defined in Java program, and using the system class you are trying to access the output stream. Out is an object of the output stream. So using the system class you are trying to access the output stream, and in order to print something in the output stream you are using the println function, which is nothing but print a new line. Print a new line. So you have to be very careful in Java program. Everything is accessed with the help of the dot operator. So you are using the system class, and using the dot operator you are trying to access the out object or the output stream object. And when you use the output stream object you can use the println function, which is already defined in Java program, and then within the brackets sorry, you can write whatever message that you want to display. And you have to be very careful. In println function you can give only strings. So you have a hello world message, and if you run the program you will print the word hello world. But if you don't give this semicolon double quotes here, it will give you an error. So you can see that illegal start of expression. This is actually a syntax error. You are violating the rule of writing a particular Java statement, and you are missing something in line 6, and the program is expecting something at this point. So you are expected to give the double quotes here. So if you run the program, now you will get the message. You can print whatever message by typing it within the printf statement. I'm trying to print my name, so you can within the double quotes I will give my name, and I will run the program. And the syntax is compulsory. You need to write your name within double quotes, and it should be written within the parenthesis as well. The brackets are called parenthesis. So even if you forget to give parenthesis, it will also give you an error. So please don't forget to give the use the proper structure of Java program. And next I'm going to another section, something called as variables and data types. So let me ask you one thing. We know how to print a message in Java program, right? So what if you want to use some values in your Java program? Assume that for example you want to add two numbers. So in mathematics you will write it like x equal to 10, y equal to 10, y equal to 10, sum equal to x plus y, right? So in mathematics this is the way you write the different mathematical operation. So in Java program also you need to follow the same structure. I forgot to mention one thing. So in English statement every sentence ends with a full stop, right? Just like that, every Java program ends with a semicolon. Java statements ends with a semicolon. So each instructions or each line in a Java program should end with a semicolon, except in some cases. I will explain all that cases later on. So we will discuss how to use the Java program to find the sum of two numbers. So since in mathematics we will be writing the whole thing like this: x equal to 10, y equal to 10, sum equal to x plus y. So since we are writing a Java program, every statement should end with a semicolon, and you need to the Java program cannot identify what kind of values that are used in a particular program unless you specify it. So in order to specify the type of value that you are going to use in your Java program, you need to tell the Java program what exactly is the type of value that you are going to use. So in a Java program, while working with numbers, you might have to use integers or decimal values, right? So either you might be using integers or decimal values. So if you are using integers, you need to tell the Java program that you are going to use two integers. So in order to specify that the variable that you are going to use is an integer variable, you need to use the keyword int. So in space x equal 10. This statement means that you are going to use a variable called as x, which contains the value 10, and the value is an integer. So variables in Java program are used to store certain values so that you can keep it for processing in your Java program. So whenever you declare a variable, you need to specify the type of the variable and the name of the variable. You can also declare the same thing like this in x, sorry, in x, and then x equal to 10. This is also same. In the first statement, I have combined two different statements into one single statement. Int x equal to 10. In the second one, I have declared a variable. Then I have assigned the value to that variable. So you can follow any of this way. So I have the second variable, which is y. So I need to specify the type of y as well. So I'm using int x and y. I have a third variable which store the sum of two numbers, and I have to specify the type of the sum variable also. So now you have two variables x and y, and you have the third variable sum, in which you store the sum of x and y. So plus is the basic addition operator that you have to add two numbers. So if you want to print the sum, you can directly type sum here. So in the print function, I will type the name of the variable which I want to display at the end of the program. If I run this program, you will get the result 20. At this point, some of you might be having a doubt why it is not written in double quotes. So if you write something in double quotes, and if you try to run the program, the println function will display as it is. So whatever statement that you write in double quotes will be displayed as it is. So if you want to print some value that is stored in a particular variable, you need to use only the variable name. So you run the program and you get the output. So now you have learned how to add two integer numbers in Java program. So let's see whether this program will work for decimal numbers. So let's say we have two numbers, 10.23 and 10.1. So 10.1. So you have two decimal values, and if you run this program, you will get an error, and the error is incompatible types, possibly lossy conversion from double to int. And the reason is You have specified that you are using an integer variable. You are using a variable to store only integers, right? So, and you have assigned, you're trying to assign a decimal value in an integer variable, which is logically error. So you can specify, you need to tell the Java program that you are using a variable to store a decimal value. So in order to do that, you need to uh, specify the data type of the variable, and to use a decimal value, you specify the data type as floating point values. So you can use the float data type to store decimal values. So I have created two variables x and y as floating point values variables, and the third variable sum also as float variable, because when you add two floating point numbers, the result will also be a floating point or a decimal value, right? So if you run the program, sorry, float, float is not working. You can use double instead. If you use double, the only difference is double will be able to store more decimal values rather than float. In some of the languages, float is actually depreciated, so it might not work in certain cases. So double should work fine. So you will get the result as 20.33. So if you want to store decimal values in Java program, you can either use float or double. So both data type are actually used to store decimal values, but if you use double value, you can have more decimal values compared to float type. So if you want to use a double variable or a decimal variable in your Java program, you can use the double data type. And the next type of data type, sometimes you might have to use some kind of strings in your Java program. Let's say you want to store your name in Java program. So if you want to print your name in Java program, you can use something called as string data type. So I will show you how to declare a string. Let's say the variable name is name. I have created a variable called as name, and the type is string. So if you want to assign a value to the name variable, you can put the equal to symbol and assign the name, let's say Vishnu G. So you can type in your name, and it is not over. You have to, if it is a string, you need to write the whole thing in double quotes. So the meaning of this statement is, I am trying to create a variable called as name, and the type of the variable is string, and the value I am going to store in that variable is Vishnu GB. And you can use the system.out.println function to print the value in the variable. If you run the program, you will get the output as Vishnu GB. But if you write the name in double quotes, all you will get is nothing but your the message that you have written in double quotes itself. Okay. And sometimes you might have to store certain characters in the sense, it can be a symbol, or it can be an alphabet, or even numbers can be treated as characters. So if you want to store a character, you have to define the variable. Let's say characters. So I have created a variable called as character. I need to specify the type of the variable, right? So if you want to store a character in a variable, you need to use the character data type. Char character. You can give any name instead of character. I'm giving it as character. And when you assign a value to a character variable, instead of double quotes, you need to use single quote. So in single quote, you can use uh, the symbol that you want to display. So I have created a variable named character, and the type is char, and the value I have in that particular variable is the @ symbol. So I can print the value using the println function, and if you run the program, you will get the symbol displayed. So this is how you use different characters in your Java program. So we will, if you have any kind of doubts, you can ask me now, so that we can move on to some practice problem. If anyone have any doubt, you can please ask me. In the chat section, you can post your doubt so that I can give reply to that. If anyone have any doubt. And I have something to share with you. So among the data type that we have discussed today, uh, we have two classification actually in data type. One the primitive and non-primitive data types. So primitive data types are nothing but the basic fundamental blocks of data that you can store or that you can use in a Java program. And character, integer, double, this comes under the primitive data type. And string is actually a non-primitive data type, as it uses uh, an advanced level, or let's say you can consider it as whenever you store a name, let's say Vishnu, it has multiple character, right? So it is nothing but a complex implementation of the character type. So basically, the basic fundamental blocks or the primitive data types are integer, float, and character, and string is a non-primitive data type. When we have other non-primitive data types also, we will discuss it in the coming classes. Okay. So now I'm going to move into the basic programming samples. So we will see how we can add two numbers. So whenever you get a problem to solve in Java program, you have to be very careful. First of all, you need to identify what to do, and then you identify the requirements, and then you have a plan in your mind, then you implement it. So it's more like writing algorithms. Algorithm is nothing but the step-by-step process for solving a particular problem. Let's say you want to add two numbers. So if you want to add two numbers, first you need two numbers, right? So you need two number one and number two, and you need two numbers, and then you need to find the sum. So you need a third variable. Let's say sum equal to number one plus number two, then you print the sum. So this is the kind of logic that you need to develop. So you have two numbers. If you want to add two numbers, first of all you need to store two different numbers, and once you store two different numbers, you need to find the sum. And in order to find the sum, you need to do the addition process, and once the addition is done, you need to print the sum. So we will try to implement the same thing in Java. Okay. So you have the main function, and the first thing you need is two numbers, right? So you need num1. You can give any realistic name, and please be very careful while declaring a variable name. Try to give the realistic name so that when you write large and complex programs, it will be easy for you to identify why you have what variable it is and why you are using it in your program. So please make sure that you give realistic names for your Java programs. So I am going to use give the data type as double, as I am the program just is saying that you need to find the sum of two numbers. So as a programmer, we should be ready with the possible inputs. If you give the type as integer, if some user enter, or if some user gives the value as a decimal value or a floating point number, it will ultimately result in an error. So as a programmer, we need to be very careful while writing the program, and we need to expect the possible errors, and we need to use the data types accordingly. So the maximum possible input from a user can be a decimal value or an integer value. A double value or a double data type can handle both integers and decimal value. If you are giving an integer, let's say 11, it will convert 11 into 11.0, which is nothing but the same thing. So you store the double data type, and then now you have created two double variables. If you want to create one more variable, you can write it here, the sum variable. You can declare it like this. So instead of writing three different lines as double num2, double sum, you can write the whole thing in a single statement, and you can assign the value here itself. Let's say 12.3, sorry, 4. Number 2 is equal to 22.3. So you have two different numbers. I have created two different variables, and I have assigned the values inside that, and sum equal to sum equal to num1 plus num2. So in Java program, addition operator is represented using the plus symbol. So in Java programming, addition operator is represented using the plus symbol. So you can write the same code uh, as below, as shown below. Double num1, double num2, double sum equal to num1 plus num2. You need to give the semicolon everywhere. Is 12.4 equal to 22.3. So this statement and the statements I have written below is also the same. The only difference is that I have reduced the three statements into one single statement like this. So you can use either of this method. For simplicity, I'm using the second one so that you won't be confused with the statements. So you have two different variables, num1 and num2. It has two different values, which is 12.4 and 22.3. And you have declared a third variable called as sum. And inside sum, you have identified or you have found the value of num1 plus num2. And you need to print the system.out.println and sum. So if you run the program, you will get the output as follows. So to give a more realistic approach, let's say if you want to print the output like the sum is 34.7. Assume that you want to print it like that. Instead of simply printing 34.7, you want to print the sum is 34.7. So in order to do that, we can make some small changes in the print function. I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So the speciality of print function is println function is whatever things you write in double quotes will be printed as it is. So if you write something, the sum is colon. If you write something like this, ultimately what happens? This message will be printed as it is. And in the print function, you can concatenate or you can merge two different statements or instructions using the plus symbol. So plus symbol is nothing but merging two different statements in a print function. So first of all, it will display the message, the sum is, and along with the message, I am going to display something else. And in this case, I am going to print the value stored in the sum variable. So you have used a string that is to be displayed, and along with the display, along with the message, I am going to print the value stored in the sum variable. So if you run this program, you will get the result. The sum is 34.7. You can also do the same thing like this by splitting it. You can use another println statement, and here you can type sum. This will also give you a similar result. The sum is 34.7. But if you notice that the two statements are displayed in two different lines, that means println function actually prints something in a new line. So if you don't want to print in a new line, you can simply use the print function. If you run the program, instead of printing in a new line, it will print in the instead of printing in the new line, it will print in the same line itself, 34.7. So this is the two types of function, print function. And now we will see how to find the difference of two numbers. So if you want to find the difference of two numbers, the same logic, you need two numbers, and you need another variable to store the difference, and instead of addition you need to use the subtraction symbol. So when you subtract two numbers, you will get the difference, and then you print the difference. This is the logic that you will be using. So you need two numbers to find the difference, and then you need the third variable, and the variable name is difference, and you need to subtract num1 and num2, right? And the message should be the difference is the value stored in the variable difference. Sorry. Okay, so you have two variables, and you have find out the difference of the two variables, two numbers, and you are printing a message. The difference is, then you are trying to print the value stored in that variable. If you run the program, you will get the result as minus 9.9. 22.4 minus 22.3 will give you a negative number. So I'm going to change the value to 2, and this time I'm going to find the product of two numbers. So if you want to find the product of two numbers, you need a product. So you need two number 1 and number 2. You need a variable product to store the product of the numbers, and the operator symbol is the star symbol or the asterisk symbol. This symbol represents multiplication, and once you find the product, you will display the result. So we will make the changes in our Java program. We have the first two numbers, num1 and num2, and the third variable should be product, and instead of subtraction we use the star symbol, and the product is the value stored in the variable product. If you run the program, you will get the output as 24.8, which is the product of two numbers. So, I'm going to again change the values 11 to give you more clarity on the next operator, which is the division symbol. So in division symbol, it's a bit tricky. So I will show you the different aspect of division. For division operation, you need two numbers, and you need the result, and the division operator is the forward slash. You have to use the forward slash to divide two number, and you will print the result. So I'm going to make the changes here. Result, and you need to divide num1 by num2. The result is, I will display the value stored in the result. If you run the program, you will see that you will get the result 5.5. So when you divide two numbers, you will get the result 5.5. And you have another operator called as modulus operator, and modulus operator which gives you the remainder when you divide two numbers. For example, so when you divide 11 by 2, the remainder will be 1, right? Quotient will be 5. So if you use the modulus operator, you divide two number, and it will give you the remainder 1. And So when we use the division symbol, we got the result as follows, right? 5.5. But there is a small difference when you divide two integer variable. Okay, you have two integer variables, and when you divide it and store it in a double variable, let's say result, you have two integer variable and you are trying to store the result in a double variable. You when you run this program, so result, when you run this program, you will get the result as 5. And the reason is, since you are using integer variable, you are trying to divide to integer variable, only the integer portion of the number is actually stored in the result. And if you want to if you are using two integer variable and trying to find the result, you need to do something called as typecasting, which is nothing but converting the type of the result. So in this case, you need to specify the data type double within the parenthesis, so that yeah, it will divide number one and number two. It will convert it into double and then store it in a result. So this happens during the runtime. So now in this case, with type conversion, we will get 5.5. And if you don't use the type conversion, ultimately you will get the result as 5, the integer portion of the result. If anyone has any doubt in any of this section, you can share it in the chat so that I can give you some explanation on that. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. Just post it in the comment section in the live chat. I'm still waiting for your response. If you have any doubts, you can share it in the live chat section. Okay. So today we'll wind up today's session, and we will have the same session for Java programming. We'll continue to the next section in the next week, Sunday, same time. Till then, bye from Vishnu. Bye all.